So hello everyone, welcome to this very exciting course that is Data Structure and Algorithms using C++. So my name is Ayush and this course is presented to you by Key Encoders. So in this course, first of all, we will dive deep into the basics of C++, of like very basics, using how to use the for loops, while loops, what are variables, what are data types, how actually these loop works, how can you break out from these loop, how can you skip some part of this loop, and other things also, and how to declare the names of the variables. So in this course, after teaching C++, I will dive into teaching DSA. In that, first of all, I will teach what are some data structures that we very often use or may not use but can be useful in future, like arrays, which are frequently used, then vectors, then maps. These are some really cool data structures which will definitely fascinate you once you get to know about them. If you have already done C programming, then you would be knowing that C++ is kind of an advanced version of that. So in this advanced version, there are some extra things compared to C, that is like objects, then that are like classes and oops and many other things. So this is a step ahead as compared to the C language. So let us come to the C++ part of what am I going to teach today. So this is the C++ overview. So in this, first of all, I will go through the basic structure and syntax of C++, and then I will go to C++ variables and comments, and then C++ data types and user input output, and rest all as you can see. So these are very basic things, but these are very important. Like, these are the very fundamentals of what should be clear to you in learning any programming language. Then you can master it by practicing a lot, and I have done this, so I can say it for sure. Once you clear up basics, then everything is going to be very fine. Okay, so I will be using this Sublime Text as my ID, that is Integrated Development Environment. So you can also use VS Code or Code Blocks according to your wish. You can try all of these, and whichever suits you, you can use that. So my personal preference is Sublime Text due to some reasons which might not be understandable for you right now, but maybe in some future time. But for VS Code, it is really nice for beginners, that you can also debug in it. It shows the, like, as you can see, the third point, it helps you to differentiate different parts of your codes with different colors and notifies you if you are missing some semicolon and bracket at some place by highlighting that area. So if you have already done C programming, then the code is going to be very similar, just some things are different, like taking the input, giving the output, and like using some extra data structures which are not in C. So these are the only differences. Else you can also use the C files also in the C++ file. Okay, like you see C header files you can use in the C++ files. So that is also very nice. So you can use them in the case where C++ lacks in, then C will be there for you to save your time. Okay, so ID, what is ID? Like, it is nothing more than an advanced version of a text editor that helps you to write more efficient and nicer code, right? So like, it is just like a notepad with some, like your regular Windows or iOS notepad with some extra features to debug it, and it also gives you the output according to whatever you input into the key using the keyboard. Okay, so coming to the next point, I will be using the MinGW, GCC or GNU compiler. So what is a compiler? So as I've already said to you, a compiler is used to run the program of a certain language, which is generally high level, by converting the code into a language that is low level, that our computer could understand. So the thing is, your program of any language is converted into a language that is a low level language for the machine or the computer, so that it can understand it, right? So but it would be difficult for us humans to understand that language, to maybe decode it, but it is difficult, it is easy for the computer to understand it, right? So coming on to the next slide. So here I am going to teach the basic structure and syntax of what we should include in our C++ file. So the thing is, we should include the IOStream line at the top of our C++ file. So what does it stand for? So it stands for like the standard input output stream. So the thing is, like, it is a very basic but a very compulsory or fundamental thing to include this, right? So now the question might be surrounding your head, like, what is IOStream? So like, it is a kind of a header file in C++ that contains declaration of functions, classes, and other entities that can be used by other programs, right? So they are typically included in other programs using the hash include directive. So the thing is, for you to use some parts of the C++ files which are very basic, for that you have to include this file at your top, such that once this is included, you can use all the functions of these. This is not just applicable to the IOStream header file, but to other ones as well, right? So these are those files that are stored predefined, that store predefined functions or variables. Okay, so coming on to how the things actually work. Okay, so the thing is, first of all, you will write the code using your keyboard, and then you will also use your mouse to maybe click somewhere, maybe to cut and paste something. Okay, so this is your input device. So there is flow of bytes from the device, input device, to the main memory, right? And then this process is called input. Okay, and then there is a flow of byte in the opposite direction, such that once the computer has computed all the operations, then it will return the flow of bytes into the opposite direction, that is from the main memory to the device. For example, it can be your display screen, or it can be a projector which you have connected to your computer or PC. Okay, then this process is called output. So IOStream also allows us to input and similarly output, and it allows us to use the character backslash and to enter into a new line. Okay, so the thing is, if you have already done the C language, then you would be knowing that we can take the input using C in C++, but in C we can take it using scanf. And similarly, you can output using printf in C and output using cout in C++. So these are one of the differences between where C++ and C differ. Okay, so like, apart from these, I don't think so there are many of differences in how do you actually write the code. This is one of the few differences in which C and C++ differ, of how you take the input and how you print the output, right? So you might be thinking that I am not writing any code. Like, the thing is, these are the very basics of, or like, this is a theory that you should be understandable to you. Once you are clear with this, we are definitely going to write some code in this. Okay, so the thing is, what are namespaces? So let us write some code. Okay, so like, this is a file. This is a Sublime text. Okay, so this is the file of how should you define write a C++ file. You should write it with the name and .cpp. That is like the syntax to define a C++ file. For example, if you would have already done C, then it can be hello.c. And if you would have already done Python, then it would be py. Okay, and or py. Depending on what file you use, you should define the subscript or the suffix of the file, of how it should end, right? So coming back, we were on the thing of how you should write a C++ file. Okay, so as I have said, you should always include IOStream file at the top, and then you should also use the standard namespace. I will explain it to you. What do I mean by namespace? So the thing is, the standard namespace is a standard name. The standard namespace contains all of the built-in functions and classes in the language. So when you write using standard namespace, you are telling the compiler to look into the standard namespace for any names that you are using in your code. So the thing is, suppose you have already written that in your code. Suppose you have already written hello, my name is key encoders, right? So once you write this, the compiler understands that whatever namespace is defined, I have to find these names inside that namespace. But the thing is, those names could be defined in the namespace, but the things are actually defined in the header files. Okay, So the namespace is just a way to store the names of whatever is being predefined in the header files. Okay, so nothing more than that. So we will look into the definition of namespaces. So namespaces are a way to organize the code in C++. So they allow you to group related functions and classes together and to give them unique names. So this can avoid name collisions and to make your code more readable and maintainable. So the thing is, the standard namespace will like contain all of the built-in functions or the names as I have said it to you. Okay, so let me show you. So it is like, this is the main function. If you don't know what are functions, then I will definitely tell it to you. So functions are like, suppose you have already done maybe like of what happens when you define a function in math, right? So f of x might be defined as x squared, right? Or x plus y. F of x comma y is equal to x plus y. So similarly, you have some parameters which are being passed into this function, right? Which are x and y, and this function is defined as this. Okay. So similarly, we will define a function here where we will not pass, in this particular case, we will not pass any variable or a parameter inside this main function, but it will return some value at the last. So this is a syntax. Okay, so let us erase this. So the syntax is like, first of all, after you write all of this, this is the basic requirement for a C++ file. You should always write a main file, and inside that you can do whatever you want to, and then you can include other functions as well. But this is the basic syntax which you should always write. Okay. So here is the input file. Like in VS Code, there is no need of such input and output files, but in Sublime, it is required to include an input file and an output file, so that once you write the input file, it will take the input and it will print the output in the output file. This input f and this is output f dot in. Okay. So coming back to the slides. So the object cin and cout are defined inside the standard namespace. So like the thing is, I've already told you before that hash include iostream provides the most standard input and output streams, that is cin and cout. So if I'm already including the iostream library, why is there a namespace needed to find cout or cin? So you might be confused. So are the cin and cout included in the iostream header file or the standard namespace? The thing is, it is included in the iostream header file, but in the standard namespace, the name is defined for that. So in order to use that name, or in order to use any function's name or any variable's name, you should move on to using standard namespace. But the function is but these things are actually defined under the header files. So that is the thing. So like all of the standard library definitions are inside the namespace standard. That is, they are not defined at the global scope. So in order to use them, you need to qualify in one of the following ways. So as you can see, these are the ways of how you can actually use to take the input or take or output some things. So this is to output something using namespace std, or you can use std with these double dots are called these four dots are called scope resolution operator. Okay, so inside the scope of std, you are using the word or the variable name cout. Okay, that is the meaning of that. Inside the scope of std, the standard namespace, you are using the word cout. Okay, so and you can also use using namespace std, or you can also use using std with scope resolution operator cout. Okay, so let me show you how the things work. Okay, so this was the basic syntax of how you should write a C++ file. Okay, so let us define a variable. So what are variables? So okay, let us come back to this, or you might be confused after some time. So I will come back to this. You need not worry. Okay, so A C++ program is made up of different tokens combined. These tokens include keywords, identifiers, constants, symbols, and operators. So keywords are the reserved words that cannot be used elsewhere in the program for naming a variable or a function. So they have a specific function or task that are solely used for that. Their functionalities are predefined. So as I've already told to you that in the standard namespace, right, there are some built-in functions which have some names, right? Like maybe any name you can think of which are already defined in the namespace. You cannot use those names, right? Because there will be a clash between the names and the compiler would be confused. So there are certain rules being made so that you should not use the names already defined in anything, in any standard namespace or any header file, right? So these are the keywords which can be anything. I will show an example to you. That can be integer, that can be include, that can be return, that can be using, that can be main. These are all the words which are being shown into this page, but there are many other words as well which you should take care of while writing any code, right? So coming on to identifiers, so these are the names given to the variables or functions to differentiate them from one another. So there are certain rules for defining the same. For example, the name cannot contain special symbols. So this thing can be really hectic for you to understand. So let us define what are variables, then we will come back to this slide. Okay, so we will start with this slide. Okay, so what are variables? So variables are containers for storing data values. So suppose you want to store what is your name, you can store it in an array of characters if you are doing C language, but in C++ there are many ways to store them. Maybe you can use array of characters, maybe you can use a string which is a vector of characters, maybe you can separately define a vector of characters to use them. Okay, so variables are containers for storing data values. So a data variable can be an integer variable defined with the keyword int that store integers. So that can store anywhere between 2 to the power 31 minus 1 to 2 to the power 0. Like that is the limit of unsigned integer, but for integer, like a normal integer, that is minus of this value, minus 2 to the power 31 to 2 to the power 31 minus 1. So that is a very large range, but very often in the industry you might be wanting to use some big data as well. So there are very many different types of integers that can be long integer that stores 2 to the power 64, that has 64 bits. So or it can be having 128 bits also, that is a big num, or maybe 256 bits. These are very large like size variables, like size data variables, which are definitely costing more size to store, but these can store large values as well. So once you use them, it will also take more time to use them, because the computations are at much more higher level compared to these integer values. Okay, so coming on to the floating point variable. So it is defined with the keyword float, and it stores floating point numbers with decimals, for example 18.32 or any other decimal number you can think of. Okay, so a character, like a letter. Okay, so coming on to the third point, a character or a letter variable defined with the keyword char stores single characters. Okay, and it has to be defined under single quotes. That is, you start with a single quote and then you put the character. That can be any character that is defined into the dictionary of C, that is the ASCII values, and then you should end that with a character. Let me show you of how you can define a variable. So first we have started with X. So here I am declaring. This is called the declaration. So and then I am assigning the value X equal to 4. So on the line number 7 I am declaring the variable, and on line number 8 I am assigning the variable. But I can also assign the variable by declaring the value. So both the things can happen at the same time. Okay, So this is a very nice feature. So as I said, the float value can be maybe 2 point any value. Okay, so and as I've said, character ch. Okay, character ch. It can be any character, a single character. So let it be an @. Okay, so whatever you put has to be under the influence of single quotes. Okay, so this is how you define. So a Boolean variable defined with the keyword bool stores a single value 0 or 1 for false and true respectively. So a Boolean variable, when you define it, you can assign the value or you can assign it later on. So it can store either the value 0 or false, or it can store the value 1 or true. So once you assign it any non-zero value, it will automatically consider it as 1. So even if you assign it like -3 or -100 or 100, it will consider it as 1. But if you assign it 0, it will only consider it as 0. So I have already explained it to you how to declare the variables. So you should write the data type, that can be int, float, character, boolean, or maybe any other data type which I have not discussed in this video, which I will definitely discuss in future time. And then you should write the variable name, right? So data type and the variable name is equal to value. So coming on to the next thing, that is naming a variable. So how can you name a variable? So the name can only contain alphabets, digits, and underscores, right? So like it should not contain anything apart from this. It cannot contain any operator. Operator, by that I mean plus, minus, or any other symbol. So a variable cannot start with a digit. These are all certain rules you can read through. Let us go through one by one. So what names can you use? So let it be int x equal to okay, let us only declare the variable. So it can be int x 10, int x 64, int x, or any other number. Okay, but it cannot start with a digit. 20 pox in 20 key encoders, right? So the thing is, once you start with a digit, there is something wrong which this Sublime detects, because once you write a variable that starts with a alphabet, that can be a capital alphabet, a lowercase alphabet, or a underscore, it consider it as a white digit, white colored word. But once you declare it as like once you declared it as like starting with a digit, then it considers something is wrong. Like you can see, first it is showing a pink color for that is for a number, then it is showing blue color that is for a blue color that is for like words, but that is wrong. You should definitely start with an underscore or maybe with some alphabet, then that is correct. Otherwise it is wrong, which then it will not allow your computer to run such a code. Okay, so it should only contain alphabets, digits, and underscores. And the second point is, a variable cannot start with a digit. As I have already said it to you, Sublime gave us an error. So it should not contain any white space in its name. That is also a very correct point. There should not be any white space between its name. So variable names are case sensitive. This is also a very nice point. Okay, key encoders, and then it can be key encoders. What do you think? Can you think about this? Are these same? Can this be considered as a same variable name or not? So the thing is, these are not like the same variable names for anything, because the first letter are small and capital respectively. So that is creating some issue. So the thing is, like C++ is a case sensitive language. So many languages are not like that, but this is, so you should take care of that. Like once you write it as small a or capital A B, or capital AB, these are two different worlds. Like you enter into two different possibilities of if you write like this. Okay, so you should always take care of that while writing the code. Okay. So the name should not be a reserved keyword or any special character. So you cannot write start with a variable called that is of type char, and you cannot write suppose using. This is totally wrong. If you run this, then your computer will give an error. Let me write this. See, that is wrong since it is showing some error. And suppose I will write it as any reserved word, that is return. This is also wrong. Let us use some other names which are present in this file currently. Char std. This is okay, yeah, this is actually the thing is the standard namespace is defined, but std is a short form for that, but that name is available to you. Okay, this will work, I think. See, so I have taken the input using cin, and then I am I will output the value of std. So let it be $. Yeah, so the thing is you are using the namespace std, but it is actually defined as a standard. So std is written as its short form, and it is not a reserved keyword. Okay, so this was a tricky thing which definitely got some of us. Okay, so the thing is, how would you enter into a new line if you have already written $, and you want to write some other thing on like the next line? So you can use an endl. So the thing is, I've already explained of how \n helps us to move to a new line, that is like to the next line, but endl also does the same. So what is the difference between the two? Like, you might be knowing or might not. Let me explain it to you. The thing is, endl flushes the output. Like, whatever output is currently present, it will flush all of them, and then it will enter into a new line. But if you write it using \n, it will not flush the output, and it will continue into the next line. So there are some interactive problems which, if you would have already done programming, then it will be really understandable for you, or if not, then we will definitely do some of them in future. So if you will use endl, then there will not be any idleness, like the computer, the file will not wait for the inputs. But if you'll use \n, then you will have to do some extra things to take care of that, such that your computer, the file is not idle, like it is not sitting for waiting for the inputs. Okay, so this can be some advanced concept for you, but for future purposes, I've explained it to you right now, and then we will use this definitely again in future, the difference between the \n and the endl. Okay, so the variable scope. So local variables are declared inside any function and can be accessed only from that function. It is declared inside a local scope, whereas the global variables are declared outside of any function and can be accessed from anywhere. It is declared inside the global scope. So let me show it to you. So let us write a function that is not inside the scope. Like scope, what do you mean by scope? Like, if you would have played some games, then the scope means whichever thing is in your radar, like invisible to you, in like visibility of your eyesight, right? But this in-text is not in visibility of any function, right? Currently we have defined only one function, that is int main, but I will write a variable that is inside the main function. So what do you think will happen? Which x will be used? Like once I take the input, which x will be used? On the line number 9 or on the line number 5? So the thing is, when you define a variable inside a loop or inside a function, so then the preference is given like to the variable that is defined inside the function or the loop. This is the thing which is already defined for C++ and many other languages as well. But in some languages, this can be opposite. Okay, so let us take and write the input 40. Okay, So to prove it to you of what I have said right now, let us take the input to be 39. Okay, let us see what it prints. See, it has given preference to the variable that is declared inside the function from line number 7 to line number 13, but it has not given the preference to the variable declared on the line number 5. Okay, so the thing is, the variable on line number 5 is declared in the global scope of this file, but the variable declared on line number 9 is declared on the in the local scope of the main function. So the preference is given to that. This is the only thing which we have studied in the variable scope, and this is really important in some questions like recursion or maybe stack, something like that. If you're already done programming, then you might be knowing what are these things. Okay, so coming back to these things, now since we have already studied the variables and some data types, now you can understand of what I'm going to explain right now. Okay, so a C++ programming is made up of different token combines. So these token include keywords. So what are keywords? As int can be a keyword, using can be a keyword, character can be a keyword, return can be a keyword. These are all keywords that are already defined in the scope of a C++ file or the IOString file. If you want to use a custom header file, then the things will be different. So in that case, these might not be the reserved keywords. In that case, whatever variable you have already used in your header file, that will be the keyword for your case. Okay, so you can change these keywords if you know how to write your own file. Those are some advanced things which we will go into in some future time. Okay, so the next thing is identifiers. So these are the names given to variables or functions to differentiate them from one another. So I've already explained this to you in the later slides. So let it be int x and then let it be int y. So these are some two different names which differentiate you from two other people. So suppose you have someone with name Rahul, and the surname of first one is, there are two people whose first name is Rahul, then first name of one is Rahul Sharma, and the second name of the second surname of the second person is Rahul Kohli. Okay, so Rahul Sharma and Rahul Kohli. So if their first name are same, then there should be something that should differentiate them, that is their surname. So the surname differentiates them. So here the case is, the name cannot contain special symbols such that @ minus star or this thing. So I've already explained it to you. The variable's name should contain digits, right? Alphabets, underscores, right? So these are the things which can be contained while declaring the name of any variable or any function. Okay, so what if I write this? So are these same variables or two different variables on line number 17 and 18? So these are two different variables, right? Because since this language is case sensitive, then the capital C and small c differentiates them and puts them into two different worlds. Like two possibilities are possible from this thing. Okay, so these are two different names as I have declared as defined here: key encoders and small key key encoders, right? These are two small identifiers in order to two different identifiers in order to identify any function or variable. So the next thing is constants. So constants are actually the thing is, there is not much of a difference between a constant and a variable. The only fundamental difference is the constant's value cannot change, and else everything is the same of how you should use them in an equation. Suppose int x is equal to 4, and then here you are assigning the value x is equal to x plus 4. So in line number 20, what is actually happening? So first the RHS is calculated using the current value of x, that is the current values of x is 4, right? So the RHS is calculated, that is x is equal to 4 plus 4, that is equal to 8, right? So the value is being calculated at the RHS and then it is assigned to the variable on the LHS side. So this is the thing. But there is a constant that is defined under the scope of header file, that is IOStream, that is int_max. So it stores the value 2 to the power 31 minus 1. Okay, so it stores that. Okay, but if you try to assign it any value, okay, let us try to assign it like 90. Let us erase all of this. So will it run or not? Because since it is a constant, its value cannot be changed. See, L value required as in left operand of assignment. So the thing is, it is already defined as a constant, so you cannot change any constant's value. If you try to do so, then it will throw an error to you and your file will not run. So this is the main difference between a variable and a constant. Suppose you define a variable using small int_max, then this is correct. You can use this. Let us erase this. Okay, yeah, this runs. So this is the execution time to run this code. So this runs perfectly, but int_max doesn't work because it is a constant already defined under the scope of the header file IOStream. Okay, so coming on to the last thing, that is symbol and operators. So symbols are special characters reserved to perform certain actions. Using them lets the compiler know what specific task should be performed on the given data. Several examples of symbols are arithmetic operators such as plus, star, minus, /, or bitwise operators such as XOR, or, and. So these are just some symbols. So suppose let us erase all of this. Okay, so let us write int x is equal to 4 and int y is equal to 20. Let us write cout. Let us define another variable, that is integer z, that is y into x plus y into minus x. Okay, so this is some equation. Okay, so what do you think the value should be? It should be 0, right? Okay, oh sorry, I have already declared the variable x. Let us erase all of them. Okay, see, the value is 0. Since x into y minus y into x is 0, let us write plus x only, or 1 plus x. So these are some really basic operations. So star denotes for the multiplication, plus denotes for the addition, minus denotes for the subtraction, and similarly / denotes for the division. So y into x plus y into 1 plus x. So the thing is, first the y into x value is calculated. It goes from left to right. Then it uses basically the BODMAS rule, and if the like priority order is same, then it goes from left to right. Okay, so y into x plus y into 1 plus x. So as you can see, y into x value is what, 20 into 4 80, and then y into 1 plus x, then that is 4 into 1 plus 20 into 1 plus 4, that is 5. So here it is 80 plus 100, that is 180. So as we can verify, 80 plus 100 is 180. Okay, so these are some operators which you can use once we go into some future operations like bitwise operations or some arithmetical operations which we will encounter in some calculations. Then we will use these operators and define it to you. And so here's the last slide, that is C++ comments. So what are comments? So let me explain it to you. Let us erase all of this. So suppose you have written all of this like the z value, and you want to know what is the z value right now. So we will print cout z. You have printed, and suppose you don't want to use this line and you don't want to erase it also, because you know you will use it in future. then you can use 2 forward slashes to comment this out. So the thing is, the compiler will not run this line. It will consider it as it will ignore it, it will ignore it and it will not use this. Once you uncomment this out, like you erase this, then it will use this value. Let me show it to you. Nothing will be printed now. Okay, but if I erase them, then see, 180 is printed. So what the comments help us in? So comment can be used to insert any informative piece which a programmer does not wish to be executed. So once you comment any line, it will not be executed and the compiler will ignore it. So it could either be to explain a piece of code or to make it more readable. Let me show you. I suppose I want to explain it to you that the value is 80 plus 100 is equal to 180. So I have explained it, but this part of code will not be run by the computer. Okay, so this is very helpful. So in addition, it can be used to prevent the execution of alternative code when the process of debugging is done. So if you know what is debugging, like you want to know the value of any variable or a function of any particular parameter that is passed into that function, then debugging is done. Like debugging is very important to find the errors in your code. We will encounter this definitely in some future time, because no one is perfect. No one can write a perfect code in the first go or in multiple goes as well. It requires you to debug the code for sure. Okay, so the comments can be single line or multi-line. Okay, let me show you this. So let us put 2 forward slashes to comment this out. But if I want to write a multi-line comment, so I will write a forward slash, then I will write a star, then I will write hello. Today we have done some basics of C++ by key encoders, right? If you want to end this comment, then we will put a star, then we will put a forward slash and such. And now this comment is over. So this, on the line number 11, it was a single line comment using 2 forward slashes, and from line 12 to 14 the syntax was to use a forward slash and then use a star and then write all of the content inside it. It can be of any lines, any number of lines. There is no such rule defined to it, and then you can end it by using a star and then a forward slash. So this was the thing, and we have completed this. Okay.